that's where we start the conversation. That's one. Do more weatherization, do more efficiency, and continue to build on that. Number
jump in for
of course.
People may not know the role that Mr. Lemville played in a working group that helped us pass the weatherization at scale program last year. So
Yes, thank you.
you've been putting your personal time into this beyond just what you do from my guess.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Weatherization is very meaningful to me, and at a personal level, it's very meaningful to me. To our company, it's one of the bedrocks of what we do. We want to keep, just like everything we do, we want people to be warm, and a warm home that's comfortable, that's saving them money and improving their comfort and their health. It's something that we should all be doing. And I have been proud to serve as the co-chair of the EAN Weatherization at Scale Task Force. And it's because of the work of this committee, this legislature, and frankly, the administration too. It's been a true bipartisan effort to be able to deliver more money to weatherization over the last few years. It's great work. So number two, so first we reduce the amount of energy we're using. Second is how can we help our customers inside of their home? And that is to install complementary electric furnaces and boilers that ultimately reduce their carbon footprint and reduce their cost. So one of the things about BGS that makes us a little different from a lot of gas utilities around the country is we are servicing customers' homes already. We have a large technical team that goes into people's basements and attics to work on the systems. And so we understand how we can pair up whether they're a cold climate heat pump, electric heat pump, water heater. We can pair that up with their existing units or replace their existing units, and ultimately not full replacement, but put them in complement to be able to promote beneficial electrification inside the home. And that's the second pillar of our program. And the third pillar is after you've reduced the amount, after you've done work inside the home, there's still something left in the pipe. So the pipes themselves are just infrastructure. We choose what goes into that pipe. At DGS, we've made a choice to, over time, diversify what is flowing through those pipes with an alternative supply. The strategy is not unlike what electric utilities have done for many decades. If you look back 30 years ago, 20 years ago, there were much more fossil fuels in those portfolios, but every year making slow and steady progress to diversify away from that. We're doing the same thing at DGS. We're doing this with renewable natural gas. We're doing this with green hydrogen. We're also thinking about other ways to deliver energy via pipes that may not be the traditional ways of thinking about it. We've leaned heavily into networked geothermal, where we can use the energy in the earth to be able to heat and cool customers' homes. We have been a partner with Burlington Electric for many years, actually going back to when I worked at Burlington Electric. We were partnering with BGS, and now at BGS we're partnering with Darren at Burlington Electric to create a district energy system in Burlington, where we're using steam heat to displace over 170,000 MMBTU of fossil gas at the hospital and university. So there are a lot of ways to deliver affordable, renewable energy. We are embracing all of those. The way one of the secret sauce for us, just like I heard some of the testimony earlier, is the women and men of BGS are extraordinarily dedicated to our customer safety, reliability, and warmth. We want to do it in a way that's affordable as well. So we are thinking about how we take this infrastructure and use it in new and innovative ways, building on these many set of strengths that I already just articulated. We also, I've mentioned affordability a few times because it is paramount to how we think about any challenge that's before us. If we sacrifice affordability, we are losing some of what produces the real value for our customers. So we have to find a way to do it both more sustainably, renewably, and affordably. At BGS, we believe we can do that. I'll talk more about that in a little bit. So we're a fully regulated utility. I mentioned that. Our ability to move quickly, innovate, is certainly we have an urge to do it. We will be doing it with or without an Affordable Heat Act. These are things we're doing today, we're doing already. Affordable Heat Act will help that. But we can only move as fast, because we're fully regulated, as fast as policymakers and regulators will allow. So we work very closely with the Public Service Department and Public Utility Commission to make sure that we're staying inside of the laws. And this type of pioneering work that we're doing does require us pushing the bounds of those laws and the traditional services that we offer. Maybe I say one of the bounds of laws within the regulatory construct. So we need something like an Affordable Heat Act to allow us to take the next step in thermal transformation as envisioned by the Global Warming Solutions Act. Updates that the Affordable Heat Act will put into the green books will help us to be able to innovate more quickly, and they will help modify the planning criteria, which today we continue to push us more toward comparatively low-cost fossil gas. So we need some balancing inside the green books to help that. We've been pushing pretty aggressively the Public Utility Commission already on this, and they've been wonderful partners with us. We've proposed expanded low and moderate income weatherization rebates, electric heat pump water heater program, which we launched last year. So we're actually installing electric heat pump water heaters in our customers' homes. This program just started, so we're in the early phase of that. We're looking at a hybrid heat program, a pilot to launch very soon. We'll be installing a electric coal climate heat pump to work alongside a natural gas furnace to reduce carbon emissions and hopefully costs. That's a key part of that. We've actually participated and done a lot of work in geothermal. I mentioned that before. We've been a partner with other EAN groups. We feel a lot of value in EAN to be on the leading edge of understanding geothermal, especially network geothermal, where we can help communities that are not otherwise served to be able to put a geo loop in and bring those costs and carbon footprint down for the long term. I'll also mention we've done a green hydrogen pilot. We're at the early phase of green hydrogen pilot at Global Foundries, a large industrial plant here in Vermont, from our IBM plant. We've done that partnership with IBM. And we've also contributed money to a very interesting electric boiler pilot at JP. So JP uses a lot of propane to warm their buildings and their water park, and we want to make sure everybody's having a fun time. It needs to be warm when you jump in, especially in a day like today. But we're replacing a number of those propane boilers with an electric boiler, and the idea being that using the electric boiler when the rates are right will allow JP to not use much propane. So they get cost savings, they get carbon savings. This is a benefit. We want to understand this electric boiler, so we might be able to pilot and partner this sort of work in our own territory around the state. All right, let's talk about. We're going to switch gears. Talk to us about VGS, and then I want to talk more about S5. So we have at VGS our recognition that we need to do more. It comes from our drive to work to address climate change. And as I said before, we've been thinking about this sort of even before the Global Warming Solutions Act. We were one of the early participants in the EAN process that launched the Clean Heat Standard back in 2020. In fact, I've been part of those groups from the beginning. And we've been active members in this with our technical team, working to make sure that we provide our experience, the energy context that will be really valuable to crafting a balanced and comprehensive approach. So we helped work on the white paper. We helped work on H715 last year. So broadly speaking, we support the creation of a balanced thermal sector performance standard, which the Affordable Heat Act and Clean Heat Standard are, to set this clear guidance forward to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions consistent with the Global Warming Solutions Act, and so that in such a way that will enable the long-term transformation of this sector with responsibility toward making sure that our customers have affordable, renewable energy and stay warm on every day of the year, or cool too. We want to think about the cooling. We think that a balanced market-based system that would require obligated parties to develop the credits or acquire the credits makes sense because it is developing a credit market. And that market approach with a number of players who are generating or acquiring credits will help over time bring down the cost of those credits. And that market-based approach is a really important thing for VGS and I think for the sector as well. These market-based performance standards, as we've heard testimony on already, do help calibrate and moderate the cost of doing some of this work. Importantly, when you're doing this sort of work, you're generating incentives for Vermonters to be able to draw down, to move toward less carbon or zero carbon solutions. And so that is a benefit. So although certainly customers would not be mandated to make a change, the idea being that the incentives that are being offered by the obligated parties would be such that they would be interested in making that change. And they have good reason to be interested. A lot of these technologies, which we're already piloting and rolling out in our system, have real promise to do it. Now they're not a cure-all. I've learned in my many years in the energy industry, there is no one silver bullet or one thing that's going to do it all. It is not. So it's going to take a diversity of solutions. So one thing that the Affordable Heat Act and Clean Heat Standard do is provide a wide array of measures with a lot of flexibility. We want to make sure that this bill maintains that flexibility. When that flexibility is decreased, that adds complexity, it adds challenges to implementability, and those things drive costs up. When we have more flexibility with less complexity, that will tend to drive costs down. So you hear that balanced approach and flexible ways to approach this is really important for us. Another thing with the framework of the Clean Heat Standard that's important is that it sets out both short and long-term projections, which provide certainty for the market. One thing that no business likes is uncertainty. It's hard to plan for uncertainty. It is hard to perform against uncertainty. So having a Clean Heat Standard in place, one that is balanced, well thought out, will implement it, will give us certainty, long-term certainty to be able to make investments and grow. And that's really, I think, what Vermont policymakers want, is we want us as obligated parties to be making these investments in Vermont's clean energy future. So the certainty that we can lock into the Clean Heat Standard, though, will be very helpful. Finally, I want to mention that broadly speaking, and I know this committee is well aware, and policymakers generally are, it is important that we are focusing on low and moderate income customers. The original bill, H5 715, had a strong focus on low and moderate income, and there are improvements in S5 that strengthen low and moderate income provisions. And this is important because there is a cost of compliance. We'll talk more about that in a second. That will be borne by those customers who are not converted. So getting customers converted early, low and moderate income customers converted early, future-proofs them against any volatility or any price increases in the market. So S5 does make, as I mentioned, a number of changes to the bill that went through this chamber last year. We did support H 715, and we do support the foundational concepts as set forth in S5 was introduced, and support the bill as introduced. In stating our support, it's worth mentioning that this bill, if passed and implemented, would represent a major shift in how the thermal sector works in Vermont. And it would be, quite a major change for a company like VGS. Very disruptive to our overall business model and very disruptive to all fuel dealers and fuel providers' overall business models. And so I don't want to, in stating support, I don't want to sort of understate that it'll be a big deal for us to be able to do this and do well, which we will do. And We also believe that we have to do it and we need to do it. But the way that the bill generally is constructed, it does drive that change fairly quickly, and it will require us to do things that we've only just started, or we need to ramp up very quickly. So I think that's fairly well acknowledged, but I wanted to say that in supporting it, we also acknowledge there's a lot of impact to our business and to our customers. The carbon, so as a couple points of just comparison against the bill that passed through last year. The addition of the carbon intensity score and the diminishment of that over time, it does provide fewer pathways than previous legislation. So that is one thing that limits flexibility as compared against H715. Again, going back to the point, when you limit that flexibility and add complexity, you're likely to be increasing costs. It also adds additional specificity in the types and quantities of credits, and this is another way that it adds complexity to it. Even if we want some of or support some of this, for instance, when we add a requirement that half of the low and moderate income credits come from installed measures, it may be a good policy goal, and we support that policy goal generally, but it does add more complexity for the implementation. That's just a for instance. We also want to recognize that it is, I mentioned this a little bit, that this timeline is ambitious. If we have a start date of this in 26, it gives us only a few short years to be able to hit our 2030 goals. I'll also say that VGS has been doing the work to move toward those goals already. So we are thinking of car, the engine's warm for us, and we're on this path already. But there are challenges, whether they're just simply timeline or workforce, that sit in the path to success, and it's important that we recognize those. But if done well, and we know that Vermont will do it well, and we believe that overall this framework does present extraordinary promise to transform the sector. Mentioned a couple other things. I sort of hit on this already. This thermal sector transformation as proposed in S5 is not costless. There will be a cost of compliance. And when I talk about cost of compliance, I'm talking about for customers that have not been converted to other fuel sources, in particular doing the in-home weatherization and electrification. So that cost of compliance will be borne by our customers, collectively from our customers who have not done that conversion. Now, of course, customers who choose incentives and choose to make some of that investment up front will be shielded from some of that, those cost pressures. But those cost pressures will be there. Now, over time, as the market evolves, and I think we saw this, you saw this in testimony that Corey and Wynn gave about Oregon. These costs, in a functioning, flexible market, these costs can moderate over time. That's one of the reasons to protect that functioning, flexible market inside of this bill. We think we are, well, as a fully regulated utility, and having done a lot of the work already, we are well positioned to manage S5 and keep rates affordable for our customers. That's really important. And we want to make sure that we are also driving change across Vermont for in particular for low and moderate income customers, but for any customers that are looking to make a change. We think that the leveraging the federal money is something that would be very important and that we pay careful attention to. I know from looking, and I think the committee has taken some testimony on this already, there's not a straight line in trying to figure out how the federal money applies to a lot of this. It's a circuitous route, often with our friends from the federal government. We appreciate their largesse, but we also want to understand that it's not, you can't simply net it out necessarily with all, you want to make sure it all fits together. And I think the legislature certainly seen that with how to apply ARPA funds to certain projects as well over time. That said, this is a great time to leverage the opportunity that's come through the various federal bills. And so we think that by leveraging that, we can make more progress faster and at a cost lower than we otherwise be able to do without those funds. Finally, just a couple of notes on the maybe technical pieces of the bill. We believe that it is important to keep the critical decisions around the technical elements of this to the Public Utility Commission and the Technical Advisory Group, the PUC and the TAG. The TAG process itself is something that is quite technical, given the wide range of activities that they're going to be asked to make recommendations on. And we want to make sure that the folks around that table have the expertise to be able to help generate good decisions and good recommendations for the PUC to approve. We have experience with Technical Advisory Group through our energy efficiency work, and feel like that's a good model process that we can adapt to the Affordable Heat Act and the Clean Heat Standard. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that we are very supportive of the life cycle emissions process and using a GREET model to be able to do an apples to apples comparison of the different fuel types and the different installed measures. That sort of apples to apples analysis really creates the market, because the market needs that sort of transparency to understand what the clean heat measures will generate in credits, so that the market has liquidity to be able to trade and ultimately retire the correct amount of credits to actually meet our GWSA requirements. That is a really important part of this. With the GREET model and the life cycle analysis and the GREET model, we want to make sure that the things that we're doing are actually reducing greenhouse gas emissions. We do not, the substandard approaches are, we shouldn't be doing them. And we want to find ones that actually work. And we know also that the market for this will value ones that actually work, because the ones that reduce greenhouse gas emissions more will have higher value, and they will be the ones that participants are going to be driving for. So I say that saying I'm noting a bit of the complexity in the bill and emphasizing or maybe underlining a point I've made a couple of times, which is that S5 is introduced, does make some changes from H 715. It does, we think, do it in such a way that maintains the balance of the bill, so allowing flexibility that will allow the package to work and push costs down over time for the credits. But additional changes to the bill beyond as introduced could add additional complexity, could reduce flexibility, and put pressure on both implementability and affordability for this. So I would urge caution to the committee as you look to make changes there. And we will, speak plainly and truthfully about how any changes to the bill are implemented and how they affect as I said before, implementability and affordability for our customers. But overall, we support the bill as introduced for the value it will bring for market transformation in the sector, and we are excited about being a partner in this space. It is important we know that this goes beyond the policy that we set and what the company wants. We also know our customers want us to deliver renewable, affordable options. They understand the climate crisis, and as market participants, we need to also make sure we are meeting their needs out there. And we believe that VGS, that we're doing that today, and we continue to do that in the future, and that S5 is introduced does move us in that direction. So with that, I'm happy to pause, take a breath.
Senator now.
What's the difference between your customers who understand and want you to continue doing what you're doing, and with the customers of the witnesses we had here earlier this morning, who we were told oppose it all?
It's all my questions.
I would, Senator, I think that if you ask most Vermonters, they want the state to take action on climate change. They understand the global crisis that is so slowly, but maybe not so slowly, unfolding. But they're also sensitive to what's in their wallet, what's in their checkbook. And what I think they're asking us to do is find ways to help do our part to protect against global warming, but do it in a way that they can afford. And so the challenge is structuring a bill to be able to allow us to do that. We feel from our study of this that the bill can do that. But I think I would say most Vermonters want both of those things. And so our job is to find a way to do that. And to recognize when one or the other is right. If something becomes too expensive or it's not moving fast enough toward our climate goals, recognize that and make sure that we are finding ways to address that. So I think it's a little bit of both.
So when, in your company that you represent, what was the trigger that made you sit down and say, we're not going to try and sell as much natural gas as we used to? We are going to help our customers actually buy less natural gas. What was this a stockholder decision that?
No, it's before I took the job as president and CEO, I actually worked with my predecessor, Don Rendell, who was president and CEO. I came in as a consultant, and we worked through a process of developing the climate plan. One of the things we did is we asked the opinions of folks that were outside of our company, but importantly, we asked folks inside of our company, how do they see the future of this company? And the vast majority, over 80% to 85%, said that we need to evolve beyond gas. So they recognized that reality. They recognized, for the same reasons I just articulated, that we have global warming crisis that is accelerating, that we need to be able to be positioned to do something about it, while at the same time keeping our customers warm and making sure that they can afford the energy that they have. We begin to think about our company less as a natural gas company and more as a warmth company. There's a lot of ways to serve warmth, and natural gas is one way to do it. But there are other ways to do it. And certainly it starts with efficiency, it's in-home innovation, it is alternative supply such as geothermal and district energy. But if you take an all of the above approach like that, we will be able to achieve what our customers want. And so that was what our own employees told us. And that is the direction that we moved in. So it was not a top-down, it was a bottom-up decision.
So were you smarter, more enlightened than the fuel dealers?
No, I think that we all I think everybody approaches these problems based on their own lived experience, their experience in their different sectors, and I can only speak to our experience at VGS and talking with our customers. So that's what's informed our plan.
So I'm trying to get to the difference between something being crammed down someone's throat, as we heard earlier, or them doing it because they think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, I can't opine on their, and as I can't and probably won't opine on their reasons, but I can opine on mine. And ours as a company is we are looking out into the future and understanding what our customers' needs are, what the state's needs are, and what the plant's needs are.
Senator,
did we make you an offer you couldn't refuse?
I will not look for the horse head in my bed tonight, but I'm not sure what you mean, sir.
how about?
I will yield to my committee members.
All right.
Continuing down the same path, you mentioned that the employees and the company, you have stockholders.
We are owned by a single company. Yeah, we're not publicly listed. We're a privately owned company.
But you are a company.
We are.
So you're looking to turn a profit.
We had a regulated rate of return that we can
Like a utility.
Like we are a utility, and
Yeah.
that we can earn up to every year. It's not guaranteed. It is something we have to be able to earn every year.
Does anyone enjoy the profits of the company?
Yeah, I mean, it's a private company, and that income, those dividends do flow.
There are dividends, okay. And the people who get the dividends are okay with this?
Very much. We're owned, we're owned by Energy, a company in Quebec that is fully aligned with our mission, And they are owned by an outfit that I will not pronounce well for my French counterparts, Le Case Depot, which is the Quebec pension system, public pension system, nearly fully owned by them. Their goals are aligned with Energy, which are aligned with ours. So this is part of our long-term view around what our customers' needs are, what the market's needs are, and how we ultimately are producing a product that our customers want to buy.
So you are not a charitable nonprofit, you are a company,
That
and
is-
you're okay with this?
Yes, we are, actually.
That's-
Last question to Senator White.
Okay, thanks, Deborah. As the light turns green on us. So when you look ahead at possibly providing incentives for cold climate heat pumps,
Yep.
weatherization, all of that,
Right.
we had a cost estimate provided to us that I think I struggle to understand some of the numbers behind, because it seemed to propose that the cost would all be incurred up front, and that even though the clean heat credits and the installation measures would have longer term, I would say amortized benefits, we didn't necessarily hear that being factored into the numbers, rather as an upfront cost is how it was played out. Would VGS be looking at the measures you're installing, cold climate heat pumps, weatherization, and then the subsequent clean heat credits? Would you be front loading all the costs for that, or having it go over time?
Yeah, I will say that I think I understand your question, and the couple points before I get into the details there. Modeling this is quite complex, in part because we don't have all the details. We understand that gets sort of worked through the tag process in the PUC. So you make a set of assumptions and a mix of different measures, because you don't want to do all one measure. The diversity of measures is important. There are some measures, according to our modeling, that we would be paying for upfront. For instance, our fuels. If you spend money on fuels like a renewable natural gas or green hydrogen, you're gonna put the money out in the year that you do that. There are others like install measures that we might pay for them upfront, but amortize them.
Yes.
And we can amortize them through our capital structure. I think that is, we chose to model like that because of our unique structure as a company. And it makes sense for us to do it that way, in part too, because it does reduce the cost of front for our customers and what we can offer those clean heat credits for. So it does depend on the type of measure, but for those installed measures in our modeling, we paid up front and then amortize the cost over time. And not every obligated party may do it that way. I think it really depends upon how they view this program, and there's a lot of factors that I don't have time to speak to on what they might get to.
So, and I realize you're not making this case to disagree with Secretary Moore's back of the envelope numbers, but I would say based on that answer that I find that that's already an error in the calculations when one of the largest potential obligated parties is already telling us that they wouldn't be paying for it upfront all one go, as it seemed to be reflected in her testimony. But that's my comment.
Yeah, and I agree. That is, thank you. And I will say that we just a reminder, we have factored into our looking at this, there are also there are fuels that factor into it. Those costs are upfront, but I'm not sure that what analysis is looked at and what mix of clean heat credits are going to be in there. That's where the complexity comes in, and it does change every year. It sort of changes, or it could change, and so there's a lot of parts that go into that.
Thank you.
So as we sign off, I'd also say for customers who opt to invest in clean heat measures, they too have the option of spreading those costs over time. Sometimes they've been spoken about as though you would incur $20,000 of expense to replace all in one go your heating system. But I think there are a variety of low and no cost measures out there that spread payments over time And for instance, I worked with you on the RAP program.
The RAP program is a lot of promise.
Where we're looking, the only measures allowed in that program are measures that savings exceed the cost of the loan service. So there's ways to do creative financing, and I think the whole affordability challenge we're working on is how to make it affordable to make the transition that we're acknowledging we need to make. With that, I'm gonna say